Transmissions Draft League. We are here to talk about week number 1 for the Transmissions Draft League season number 3. Excuse me if I look a little bit tired. I just woke up from a nap, but I figured I should get this done now because I don't know when I'm going to have time to do it. Let's go over it. So I did make some guesses, and they were guesses for week 1 on who is going to win ahead of time, and I will be sharing those in a second, but first we will recap what happened this week. First up, the first matchup this week was easily the biggest upset this week. We had Sunset Rose Meowsticks, my lowest rated team, beating the Los Angeles Charge Beams, our highest rated team this season. And this was kind of an interesting game. I do suggest that everyone goes and watches it. And although I do think that both players played relatively well, there was a couple of things that did determine the outcome of this game. Namely, in game number 1, there was a lot of RNG that went in Sunset Rose's favor that kind of swung the match. JKG did do well to bring it to 3 games, and although I do think that the loss obviously hurts, it might take him down from the number 1 seed, I do think JKG is still in a fine position to make playoffs. Like I said, he still brought it to game 3, and despite that, he still has a chance to beat all of the rivals that he has for those 3 playoff spots. But yeah, it does make the race for playoffs in the Dark Division a lot more interesting. And in that game, of course, I did predict JKG to win, so that is a prediction that I got wrong. Next up, we have Mount Silver Spectres versus the Cream City Milkers. So if you saw my power rankings, my power rankings actually have changed because the Mount Silver Spectres did make 3 trades that moved the needle quite a lot for me. They made 2 trades that I thought were pretty good. Victory Bell is a really good Pokemon in the sun, and I think that's fine. Doug Trio is kind of whatever. That's a sideways move to me. The move that interested me the most was Walking Wake was traded for Mega Alakazam. Obviously, this does make your Psychic Spam mode a lot more threatening, and a lot more immediately threatening as well. But to me, that takes almost all of the teeth out of your Sun mode, and it honestly did drop that team down a bit for me. I thought that this match was going to be really close with Totter Sun mode, and I thought that it was going to be very much in Dale's favor after the trades. And here we have a 3-game set where Dale does come out on top. Like I said, this match was a little bit closer than I had first imagined. I think it's safe to say that we can trust Totter in his team building, and although this is not how I would have constructed this team, he seems to have a pretty good handle on it, and despite going up against one of the tougher teams this season, definitely put enough on the page that I think he'll be fine for the rest of this season. And honestly, I think that he's still one of the favorites to get one of the 3 playoff spots. And like I said with JKG, losing in 3 does help your differential quite a bit, and you are still on your way to playoffs from that position. Looking at this from Dale's perspective, you get a win against one of your rivals for the playoff spot. You hopefully put yourself in the driver's seat, and yeah, time to look towards next week and try not to get upset, basically. The final match from the Dark Division was the California Cubones versus the 10-star team. Domination by the 10-star team. I do think a lot of this is coming from inexperience from Nova. I saw a couple of weird sets that kind of told me that they come from a singles background, which a lot of players do, especially in draft. Stealth Rock and Spikes are not really useful in a doubles format, especially when you draft a hyper offensive team that aims to end the game quickly. Um, if your team is a stall team, those things can work. It's not very likely to work. It's only worked in scenarios where, um, like during Regulation E, where Dondozo, Tinglu, and Gouging Fire were a really strong stall core when paired with Glamora, and sometimes on those teams, Tinglu would run Stealth Rock. But even those teams were fringe good, not really tournament contenders to win the whole thing. But yeah, I do think Nova can take a lot of lessons from this, mainly about how important speed control is. His opponent was basically able to get Trick Remote for free against him, and he couldn't really do anything about it. And his strong Trick Room attackers with Hariyama and Ursaluna just got to win the game. And like I said, pretty much uncontested. And yeah, so Tensor looking really good for playoffs, putting himself in a good spot. I think right now there are, of course, 4 teams to really be watching. Both JKG and Totter put enough onto the field that you think that they're still going to contend for those playoff spots. And of course, the 3 winners are the current holders for the playoff spot. So Dark Division looking very competitive. Moving on to Light Division, first game was my match this week. If you didn't see what happened, be sure to check out that video posted earlier this week. But your Manchester Beavers did end up losing it in 3 games. It was a very fun 3-game set. Just a quick recap, if you haven't seen it, like I said, go watch that. First game, clinical win for your Beavers. Second game, a lot of good adjustments made by Invisible to take that win. And in game 3, we got a massive lead in the early turns, which we then lost by making a couple of mistakes, and some more mistakes coupled with some bad luck does end up losing the 3rd game for us. Now, I don't think that the bad luck changed the outcome, but it definitely did mean that I didn't have a chance to correct my play later in the same game. A crit knockoff plus a couple of unfortunate protects and whatnot does end up giving Invisible the win, which puts him in a very good spot. I do think that Light Division is going to be a little bit less competitive, but we shall see. I think there is a lot to be said for beating one of the experienced coaches, and yeah, I think Invisible should have a very strong competitive team this season, and I think as long as they run into good matchups later on, which I do think, by the way, this is one of their best matchups, where you have mostly physical attackers with your Intimidate cycling and Fake Out cycling, as well as one of the main attackers being incredibly weak to Lucario. But yeah. Hopefully your Beavers are going to bounce back. I do, like I said, with both JKG and Totter, we're still in a decent spot to make playoffs. We took that game to 3, and it's not a loss to be upset about. But yeah. Next up, we had Ninja Fusion versus the Lafayette Litwix. Litwix kind of won this one pretty cleanly. The first game was a lot closer than the second. That first game definitely, I think there was a couple of plays that Pixie could have made to close the game out, but not anything to be upset about. It was still a competitive game. In the second one, I'd say a lot of the same was happening up until RNG kind of took over. Aerodactyl made a couple of really clutch crits and flinches off of rock slides that definitely sealed that game up. I don't think Pixie was meant to win that second game. Even with perfect play, I don't think Pixie was going to win that. But yeah, Great win for Tasenda, and um, I do think that that puts them in a decent spot for playoffs as long as they continue a high level of play. Uh, they have decent matchups, but we shall see how they do, especially in the cross-divisional matchups. I believe they have the easiest schedule when it comes to that, but we will see. And the final game this week was a delightful Del Foxes versus New York Poke Rangers. Poke Rangers took this pretty cleanly. Um, the duo of Magmar Starmie basically had no answer and got to run away with that game pretty much uncontested. And kind of shows the dominance and flexibility that that team has. No Trick Room, and they're still able to get wins. Starmie ending up being a very valuable low tier Pokemon for them. I'm not sure that it's going to have the same impact later on in the season. We might see it again versus Ninja Fusion, as it is another Psychic Terrain team, but we shall see, like I said. So going over my guesses, because I believe that week 1 is more of guesswork than an actual prediction. Once you see how a team is doing and how they're performing and how a coach wants to use them, then you can start making predictions, especially because that first week is a lot of people learning what their team is going to be like. You can obviously theory craft and think about things in a vacuum as much as you can, but Pokemon is played in the game, so people need to learn by playing the team. But yeah, so my predictions were, I saw the Charge Beams winning. I got that one incorrect. I saw the Cream City Milkers winning. I got that one correct. I saw the 10-star team winning. Got that one correct. I predicted my own team because I'm always going to predict my team. There's no point in predicting against myself if I want myself to win. I'm always going to do my best to win. Unfortunately, got that one incorrect. I did predict the Litwicks to win. They got that dub. And then I also predicted the Poke Rangers. So continuing the pattern from last season where I get 4 correct and 2 wrong every single week. We'll see if that continues for the rest of the season. If it does, something might be rigged, or it might just be consistently that there are 2 setups, 2 upsets every week, sorry, and I'm just failing to get them. But yeah, looking forward to week 2. I do have predictions for week 2, and I think this is probably where we're going to see the top teams separate themselves. We have a couple of matchups from top teams versus each other, and one of those is between the 10-star team and the Mount Silver Specters. I'm actually going to predict the Specters here. So even though 10-star team had a more impressive week 1, I think I saw enough from Totter's team. I have seen enough from Totter in previous seasons to say he has the tools and the idea to beat Trick Room, and with this team style, I think he can actually do so. I expect to see something like a Imprison Indeedee coming out for week 2. The second game, I am predicting the Charge Beams again. I really don't see them losing this week against Nova. Mostly because they have an insanely good matchup despite all of the electric type moves being thrown around. Really only Thundurus and Blastoise are scared of those. The rest of the team can make up for it because Basculegion is so fast, it gets KOs before the electric moves come out. And the rest of his team actually is doing just fine against that. Plus, Raichu does a lot to help in that department. But the beautiful thing is that JKG doesn't even need the rain, while parts of Novatine does absolutely need the rain. So you might get the rain up for free without needing to set it up yourself. Next up, I am taking the Cream City Milkers. I am going to predict against the Sunset Rose Meowstic again. I do think that this is another trap game, just like the Meowsticks were in week 1. But I do think that Dale has better tools at actually handling the Meow Sticks. And a part of that has to do with their speed control and their just average speed tier that is a lot higher than most teams. I think a team that has lower speed control amounts and lower um, overall speed is going to have a harder time versus Sunset Rose because they are a more offensive team that preys on the frail teams that can't really keep up with them. But that being said, I do think that Dale has all of the tools he needs to completely take over this match, at least offensively. And I think defensively, he's got enough tools that the game is not ever going to get out of reach. And with good play, even a deficit can be made up for. Next up, I'm going to predict the New York Poke Rangers. I think Ada should have a decent week again. Um, there are a couple of rough matchups versus the Litwicks, but I do think a lot of them also go in your favor. So although on paper it's a 50-50, I'll always lean towards the coach that has some more experience, and I do believe that Ada also has the overall better team. So we will see how that plays out, but I believe Ada's going to continue with his momentum rather than Tasenda. Uh, Speaking of coaches continuing their momentum, I'm going to predict Invisible and the London Ludicolo over Ninja Fusion. I did see some good stuff from Ninja Fusion in week 1, and although I do think they have a better matchup than I did into the Ludicolos, it's still a tough matchup, and I think if Invisible continues to play the way that he did, um, this should be at minimum a 3-game set, or it should be um, even greater in his favor. So gonna predict the Ludicolos there, and then finally I'm gonna predict Manchester Bewares for week 2 over the delightful Delphox. Um, like I said, with week 1, I'm always going to predict my team when it comes to predictions, um, and that's because I do believe in my team's ability to win. I mean, why show up to a tournament if you're not going to predict yourself to win, right? Um, but um, I do have a lot of confidence going into week 2, and when that week 2 video comes out, you will see why. So yeah, hopefully we can do your viewers proud. And that's all I have for your week 1 recap, and looking forward to week 2. Let's go ahead and check out these stats really quick. We got a few high tier Pokemon doing really well, and a couple of mid to low tier Pokemon doing really well as well. Starmie, huge standout performance for Starmie. 6 KOs, 0 deaths, 2 wins, and not a single loss. It means that Starmie is current frontrunner for KOs and wins right now. So congratulations to Starmie. That low tier Pokemon did quite the work. But we see lots of higher tiered Pokemon really representing their teams well. Raging Bolt obviously doing the most for the Ludicolos. Ogerpon Cornerstone continuing to be a massive offensive threat. Ursaluna continuing to be a absolute house in draft. And of course, Dragapult Blacephalon being those speed demons that deal a ton of damage, rounding out the top 5. Yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to for next week. Hopefully, I will see you guys in that video. And yeah, good luck to everybody, but make sure you cheer on your viewers. See you in the next one. Bye bye.